Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here as promised that I was going to talk about the motion that Jennifer Bonjean asking for some of the charges against Mr. Kelly in the Northern District of Illinois case to be dismissed. And so before we get into that, I am going to read the official docket notes or the information that was provided from the judge on the hearing that took place. And if you guys saw my last video, I talked about how people were carrying on that call. And some of them may have missed the fact that he dismissed Jennifer Bonjean's motion to adjourn until November 1st, stating that they need to go ahead and get this case to trial. And so the trial will start on August 1st, unless something comes up that makes him change his decision. And so the other thing that he talked about was the motion to dismiss that Jennifer Bonjean. And so the notification of docket entry states this docket entry was made by the clerk on Tuesday, May 10th, 2022, minute entry before the Honorable Harry D. Linenweber telephonic motion hearing held. For the reasons stated on the record, defendant's motion for continuance is denied. Defendant's motion to dismiss is entered and briefed as follows. A response by May 24th, 2022, which will come from the Northern District of Illinois, and a reply from Ms. Bonjean will come by May 31st, 2022. The court will rule by mail. Telephonic status hearing set for 5/25/22 has now been reset to June 15th, 2022 at 10 a.m., which is interesting because he is going to be sentenced on June 15th, 2022 in the Eastern District of New York at 10 a.m. And I understand that there's an hour lapse time, but this makes no sense. And I hope Jennifer Bonjean brings it to his attention that this is approximately the same time that Mr. Kelly is going to be sentenced in the Eastern District of New York. And so this call is also for all the defendants, meaning that I guess he wants Mr. Kelly, Mr. McDavid, and Mr. Brown to be on this call. And so then it goes on to say persons granted remote access to proceedings are required to mute their lines upon entry. Persons found to have violated the prohibition against photographing, recording, and rebroadcasting of court proceedings may face sanctions, including removal of court-issued media credentials, restricted entry to future hearings, denial of entry to future hearings, or any other sanctions deemed necessary by the court. And then it says, attention, this notice is being sent pursuant to Rule 77D of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedures of Rule 49C of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure. It was generated in the system, blah, blah, blah. So basically just reaffirming the things that he had stated previously at the hearing, so we know what is going on. So Jennifer Bonjean responded to, now the last superseding indictment that I have for this case is dated February 13, 2020. I don't think there were any more superseding indictments following that. And so a couple of people had asked me to go over this indictment again. They didn't remember the charges or who the people are that are involved in this case. And just let me state that we really don't know who these people are that are involved in this case. And so I'm going to go over this. Count one states that in or around 1998 or 1999 at Chicago in the Northern District of Illinois, Robert Sylvester Kelly, also known as R. Kelly, defendant herein, did knowingly employ, use, persuade, induce, entice, and coerce a minor, namely minor 1, to engage in explicit conduct for the purpose of producing a visual depiction of such conduct, namely video 1. And we know that this is Rishona Landfair. And then they go, and I'm not going to keep reading this over and over about the persuade, induce, entice, and then the fact that such visual depictions would be transported in interstate or foreign commerce or mailed, or such visual depiction was actually transported in interstate or foreign commerce or mailed. And this is in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 2251A. And so what we learned from the Eastern District of New York case is that when they're talking about this interstate commerce and foreign commerce and all of that, they're not actually saying that the video was made for the purpose of him mailing it to people or showing it to people or selling the video or that type of thing. They're basically using this terminology to say that interstate commerce is actually when you're out somewhere and you're using your cell phone to make a video. That's interstate commerce, because the phone that you bought was actually made somewhere other than where you live, and then you used it, and then you may have saved it to a computer that wasn't created or made where you live, wasn't made in your house. So they're basically saying that any device that you use is considered interstate commerce if that device was bought or made somewhere other than where you live. And in this instance, they would be talking about a VHS tape. So the VHS tape, might have been made overseas somewhere, may have been made in another state other than Chicago, or it may have been made in Chicago, made in Illinois, but not in Chicago. So that would be considered interstate commerce. I know it's a far reach, but it is what it is. So count two also involves Rishona Landfair, and it says between approximately, so the special May 2019 grand jury further charges between approximately September 26, 1998 and September 25, 1999 at Chicago in the Northern District of Illinois, Eastern District, on Robert Sylvester Kelly, the defendant herein did knowingly employ, use, persuade, same terminology, to engage in explicit conduct. And so they're saying that there was a second video, and it says in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 2251. Then they go down, and then there's a count three, same dates, same person, Rishona Landfair, talking about a video 3, that there's a third video. Then it goes on to count 4, same situation, Rishona Landfair, and now they're talking about a fourth video that was taken. And then we move down to count 5, and let's see if they're still okay. So count 5 is 1, at times material to this indictment. A defendant, Robert Sylvester Kelly, also known as R. Kelly, was a resident of Chicago, Illinois, and was a Grammy award-winning recording artist and record producer. Kelly was the president and manager of several businesses, each located in Chicago in the Northern District of Illinois, that he maintained in furtherance of his music career, including but not limited to Bass Productions Limited and RSK Enterprises LLC, which going forward will be referred to as the Kelly businesses. Now, this count is involving Daryl McDavid. And so it goes on, B, from in or around June 1991 until in or around January 2014, Kelly and or one more of the Kelly businesses employed defendant Daryl McDavid as a business manager. So I may not have been clear on that. So they're saying that between June 1991 and January 2014, he employed Daryl McDavid at one of these businesses. McDavid was a principal at Winkler and McDavid Ltd., located in Oak Park, Illinois. As a manager for Kelly, McDavid was involved in providing services to Kelly, which services were in part intended to protect Kelly's image, reputation, and assets in the face of actual and potential criminal and civil actions involving individuals who were victims of misconduct. So they're basically saying that his sole purpose of hiring Daryl McDavid was to deal with these groupies coming after him and filing lawsuits over sexual allegations. Like, he didn't have a whole music career going on in which he needed a manager to help him manage his business affairs. They're saying that the purpose he hired them, in part, I shall say, was intended to protect his image from this type of thing getting out. So C, from at least approximately 1997 to at least approximately February 2019, Milton Brown, also known as June Brown, was employed by Kelly and or one or more of the Kelly businesses. D, minor one met Kelly in or around 1996 or 1997 when minor one was approximately 12 or 13. And we know that that's Rashonda Landfair. Minor 3, and there is no minor 2. So I think we had decided that Lisa Van Allen was minor 2, but they removed her as a quote unquote victim. And now she is a witness because she's going to be the one to testify about them buying and, trying to buy back these videotapes and, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get these tapes back. So minor 3 met Kelly in or around 1996 when minor 3 was approximately 15 years old. Minor 4 met Kelly in or around 1999 when minor 4 was approximately 16 years old. So we know Rashona is minor 1. We don't know who minor 3 is. I thought minor 3 might have been the Tiffany Hawkins chick, but their whole situation was in 1994 or something like that. So minor 4 is I believe is Tracy Sampson, and she was the intern for Epic Records. I narrowed it down. I did have 2 people here of who that possibly could have been, but then when I looked at the actual dates, I believe that is the Tracy Sampson chick because of the end date. And we'll get more into that down below. And then minor 5 met Kelly in or around 1996 or 1998 when minor 5 was approximately 13 or 14 years old. And minor 6 met Kelly in or around 1997 or 1998 when minor 6 was approximately 14 or 15 years old. So then I was thinking, okay, minor 5 or minor 6 might be the Heather Williams chick, but once again, the dates, I think in this case, the age did not add up, because I believe Heather Williams is a chick that claimed, like, she's had 2 different stories. One was that she was at a restaurant celebrating her birthday and he gave her the phone number. The mother took the phone number, but somehow she ended up with the phone number and was able to meet up with him. Then another story talks about her walking down the street and him stopping and asking her, do she want to be in a music video? And I believe that it might have been 1998. However, I think she was like 16 years old. So that would rule her out. So this is going to be a case like with the Eastern District of New York, where, we were guessing, trying to figure out who these people were. And it turned out we didn't know who the Stephanie chick was. And we know that she's not in this indictment because when she actually reached out to Mr. Kelly, she was 17 years old, and I believe it was 1999. And I just can't, I really can't put my finger Then we had the Sonia chick that was so far out of left field. You know, the chick from Utah with this extravagant tale that she told that not even the jury could find themselves able to find him guilty with the alleged charges that she had. But then some of the bad act witnesses were people that nobody had ever heard of. And we were just sitting there like, huh? What? Okay, I'm not sure. And so it looks like it's another situation where these may have been some people that called into that 1-800 number that Kim Fox put up, and they were able to convince these people to be a part of this case. Or it could be some of the women, you know, Jim Derrick got to swear before God in heaven that he has a list of 48 women that are, you know, alleged victims. So maybe these were a couple of them that he was able to convince to be a part of this case. So then we move on. Kelly was born in 1967. J, he engaged in contact and acts as those terms are defined in Title 18, United States Code Section 2246 with minor 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 when they were each under the age of 18. Between in or around 1998 and in or around 2002, Kelly recorded himself on video engaging in contact and acts with minors, including minor 1, 4, and minor 5. So here they're changing the dates. And I thought that was interesting because I think the 2002 date applied to the alleged victims 5 and 6 because he supposedly met them in like 1998 and their situationship lasted until 2002. And then it kind of made me want to go back to the whole Lisa Van Allen. I don't know, it's just that they're playing games with this indictment and these victims. So then it goes on to say Video 1, Video 2, Video 3, and Video 4 depict Kelly engaged in contact and acts with minor 1 when minor 1 was under the age of 18. M, in approximately April 2000, the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services began to investigate whether Kelly was abusing minor 1. In, on or about June 5, 2002, a grand jury of the Circuit Court of Cook County, Illinois, returned an indictment charging Kelly in the case of People of the United States of Illinois versus Robert Kelly. And so we know that it says with 21 counts of pornography relating to Video 1. So they're bringing Video 1 back up, which to me seems like double jeopardy. But anyway, the case was tried to a jury beginning on May 20th, 2008 and on June 13th, 2008. Kelly was acquitted of those charges. And then 2, beginning in approximately 2000 and continuing to the date of the return of the superseding indictment at Chicago in the Northern District of Illinois and elsewhere. And let me stop before I go any further. It says the case was tried to a jury beginning on May 20th and on June 13th. So are they saying that the trial was from May 20th to June 13th? Or is that how long the jury deliberated? Because the helper from the Eastern District of New York, Geronda Pace. Geronda Pace's birthday is in April. And I thought she was already going to the trial. And she turned 16 or she turned 15. She said the trial started when she was 14, and then 2 weeks later she turned 15. So it's the May 20th to June 13th, the dates between the jury deliberation, or are they saying that was the entire trial? That's a little confusing there, but I'm thinking that the trial started in April. So then 2, beginning in approximately 2000 and continuing to the date of the return of the superseding indictment at Chicago in the Northern District of Illinois and elsewhere, Robert Sylvester Kelly, also known as R. Kelly, and David McDarrell, defendants herein, did knowingly conspire with each other, individual A, and others known and unknown to the grand jurors, to commit an offense against the United States, namely to knowingly alter, destroy, mutilate, conceal, cover up, falsify, and make a false entry in any record, document, and tangible object with the intent to impede, obstruct, and influence the investigation and proper administration of any matter within the jurisdiction of any department or agency of the United States and in relation to the contemplation of such matter or case in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 1519. So 3, it was part of the conspiracy that Kelly McDavid and others knew of Kelly's contact and acts with individuals and knew that Kelly recorded himself engaged in contact acts and with minors on videotape. 4, it was further part of the conspiracy that in approximately 2001, Kelly and McDavid learned that multiple videos, including but not limited to video 1, video 2, video 3, and video 4, depicting Kelly engaged in contact and acts were missing from Kelly's collection of such videos. 5, it was further part of the conspiracy that in order to conceal and cover up the existence of videos from investigators, Kelly McDavid and others agreed to collect the missing videos that depicted Kelly engaged in these acts. 6, it was further part of the conspiracy that Kelly McDavid and others agreed to pay money and cause money to be paid on Kelly's behalf to victims, witnesses, and others to ensure that they would not cooperate with law enforcement and would conceal and cover up evidence, including videos relating to contact and acts, such as the following. A, between approximately 2001 and approximately 2009, Kelly McDavid, individual A, and others caused individual B to be paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for obtaining and returning multiple videos that they knew depicted Kelly engaged in contact and acts. So we know that this is Lisa Van Allen, Damon Friar, and the other guy whose name I can never, ever remember. B, in approximately early 2007, Kelly and McDavid agreed to pay individual D approximately $250,000 to return a tape that they knew depicted Kelly engaged in contact and acts with minor 1 and individual D. Okay, in C, in approximately 2007, Kelly and McDavid paid individual C and individual D each approximately $100,000 in exchange for their efforts to return to Kelly videotapes that they knew depicted Kelly engaged in contact and acts with Rashana and individual D. So individual D must be Lisa Van Allen. So D, on or about April 17, 2007, Kelly and McDavid caused one of Kelly's businesses, Bass Production Limited, to issue a check in the amount of $200,000 to June Brown, who cashed the check that same day, which Kelly, McDavid, and Brown intended to use to pay individual C and individual D for their efforts to return to Kelly videotapes that they knew depicted Kelly engaged in contact acts with minor 1 and individual 2. So, child, we up to what? $550,000? Okay, E, as a condition of being paid money, or did they, wait, let me go back up here because I don't want to be giving out the wrong information. So the $200,000 was actual cash. Okay, and approximately paid, no, they say he paid individual C and individual D $100,000, and then they said early 2007. Okay, so in approximately early 2007, he agreed to pay individual D approximately $250,000. So I am going to say that $250,000 was never paid out. So then in 2007, he paid individual C and individual D approximately $100,000 in exchange And then on April, so is this the same 200? So they be playing games with this wording, trying to add these charges and make this thing seem bigger than what it was. So in approximately 2007, he paid individual C and individual D each approximately $100,000. But then they come down here with D, talking about the check that June Brown cashed for $200,000 to pay individual C and individual D. So that was the same. You guys get what I'm saying? That was the same money that they're talking about in statement C, but they're trying to make it seem like it's a bigger deal. E, as a condition of being paid money for returning videotapes that depicted Kelly engaged in contact and acts, Kelly and McDavid directed individual B, individual C, and individual D to take polygraph examinations regarding whether they had returned all copies of such videotapes. F, in approximately June 2008, after learning that individual B planned to announce at a press conference that he had recovered videos depicting Kelly engaged in these acts, Kelly, McDavid, and others paid individual B approximately $170,000 to cancel the press conference. So it sounds like individual B got upset that he didn't get any of the money that was paid to C and D. Is that what's happening here? And then we're talking about June 2008. So you can tell me that this man on trial, they want us to believe that while he was on trial, he was negotiating the return of these videos. Not sure how smart that would have been, but it is what it is. I guess desperate times requires desperate measures. So G, in approximately 2014 and 2015, Kelly paid McDavid to ensure that McDavid would continue to conceal and cover up evidence, including but not limited to video 2, video 3, and video 4, relating to Kelly's contact and acts. 7, it was further part of the conspiracy that Kelly, McDavid, and others agreed to intimidate, threaten, pressure, persuade, and attempt to persuade other individuals, including but not limited to minor 1, minor 1's parents, individual D, and minor 5 to falsify and make a false entry in a record, document, and tangible object related to Kelly's contact and sexual acts with these individuals. So A, in approximately December 2000, pursuant to instructions that minor 1 received from Kelly, minor 1 falsified and caused a false entry to be made in a police report when minor 1 denied to law enforcement officers that Kelly engaged in a relationship with her. And once again, minor 1 is Rishona Landfair. B, in approximately May 2002, McDavid instructed Rishona's father, who, for those who don't know, her father, Greg Landfair, was a musician for Mr. Kelly. He was was he the drummer for him? Or is this the son that's the drummer? But anyway, he is a musician for Mr. Kelly. Child, I just can't keep up with all this stuff. And unfortunately, he passed away last year. So we don't know how this is going to impact this trial. Note that he is no longer here. There were rumors that they were threatening to arrest Rishona's mother and father if she did not agree to testify in this trial and say that, it was her on the videos. So the death of her father, will it change that? Because her mother, I guess, is still in jeopardy of being arrested, by the government as they are coercing her to testify in this case. And then there was a statement that was released by the family lawyer when all of this first happened by the name of Christopher Brown, who acknowledged that the family was cooperating with the government. However, their story had not changed from 2008 or whenever they initially interviewed her, that her story had not changed. And then for those of you who don't know, the rumor is that he paid them, to leave the country and not testify. But then there was a statement that came out from someone that was part of the prosecution or something that stated that they were there ready to testify, but the prosecution made the decision not to call Rishona Landfair during the 2008 trial because they knew she was going to get up there and say that it was not her, and that would hurt her case because the image on the video was blurry and there really was no way to 100% say that was her in the video. And so we still don't know what cooperation is. You guys know I got my hands on a transcript from a hearing that took place in the case back in, I believe it was 2019 that this hearing took place, where the lead prosecutor on the case for the Northern District of Illinois stated in that hearing that Rishona Landfair has changed her story and that she is ready to testify and say that it was her on the video. So I guess until she actually gets on that stand and testify, we really don't know, because part of the information that YouTuber Tasha K was getting from the employee, and once again, for those of you who haven't been following the story and just stumbled upon this video, there is a YouTuber and her channel is called Unwind with Tasha K, and she ended up in a federal investigation of a federal employee who was illegally accessing Mr. Kelly's jail records, his phone records, his visitation records, his contribution records, people that was commissary records, and was sending those records to Tasha K. And according to Tasha K, Rishona Landfair was sending money to Mr. Kelly monthly, putting money on his books monthly. And so I don't understand how you have a government witness who is helping the defendant, the person that you are trying to get her to testify against. So that was a whole weird situation that I think Jennifer Bongine really needs to look into to figure out, like, were there emails going back and forth between Rishona and Mr. Kelly while she was sending this money? Were there notes attached to the money that she was sent? But according to Tasha K, according to the official records that she was getting, that Rishona Landfair was still in contact with Mr. Kelly and was putting money on his books. And then we also know that it was revealed that as early as 2015, Rishona Landfair was seen at Mr. Kelly's home, was on his property, one of his properties, that she was still a fixture visiting him. And then we know that he bought her a truck and he was giving her money for something. So there still was a relationship going on there. And what that relationship is, we really don't know. So in any event, let me go back to where I was at. In approximately December 2000, pursuant to instructions that minor one received from Kelly, minor one, who is Rishona, falsified and caused a false entry to be made in the police report, and Rishona denied to law enforcement officers that Kelly engaged in a relationship with her. B, in approximately May 2002, McDavid instructed Rishona's father to provide knowingly false testimony to the Cook County grand jury investigating Kelly's relationship with Rishona, and that McDavid instructed Rishona's father to deny that video one depicted Rishona engaged in acts with him, when McDavid knew that video one did depict Rishona. Okay. And let's see, as instructed, Rishona's father falsely denied to the grand jury that video one depicted Kelly and Rishona, thus creating a false record and a false entry. C, in approximately May 2002, Kelly persuaded Rishona to provide knowingly false testimony to the Cook County grand jury investigating his relationship with her, and then she falsely denied to the grand jurors that Kelly engaged in a relationship with her, and that she was not depicted in video 1, thus creating a false record. D, in approximately May 2002, Kelly attempted to persuade minor 5 to provide knowingly false testimony to the Cook County grand jury investigating Kelly's relationship with Roshona, in that Kelly instructed minor 5 to testify falsely that she did not recognize Roshona in video 1. And so this kind of goes back to me thinking that Lisa Van Allen is still in this indictment, that she is the minor 5. So then E, on or about July 26, 2007, Kelly and McDavid directed individual D to falsely deny that individual D and Kelly engaged in acts together with Roshona when Kelly and McDavid knew that Kelly had engaged in acts together with Roshona and individual D. As Kelly and McDavid intended, a false record document intangible object was prepared based upon individual D's false statements. So once again, is minor 5 and individual D the same person? And that same person is Lisa Van Allen. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, because I'm hella confused at this point. So then it goes on to say it was further part of the conspiracy that Kelly, McDavid, and others agreed to intimidate, threaten, pressure, persuade, and provide benefits and money to victims, family members, witnesses, and others to ensure they would destroy, conceal, cover up, falsify, and make a false entry in a record, document, and tangible object, and continue to abide by previous false statements and entries in such items relating to Kelly's contact with individuals, such as the following. So guys, let me pause this right here, because I am going to pull up the original indictment to see what is said about victim number 2. Okay, so minor 5 is not Lisa Van Allen, because it says that minor 5 was approximately 13 or 14. Okay, and then when we go back to the original indictment, it says that minor 2 met Kelly in or around 1997 when minor 2 was approximately 17 years old. So that is Lisa Van Allen was minor 2, and then she's individual D, no longer being a victim. And so minor 5 is somebody that I done missed out on. The information is probably out there somewhere and I overlooked it. So let's go on and see. Wait, hold on. Let me get back down here to where I was at. Okay, so we go to A, picking back up where I had left off. It says in approximately January and February of 2002, Kelly and McDavid calls minor 1, which is Roshona, and Roshona's parents to travel to foreign countries to make them unavailable to law enforcement investigating Roshona's sexual relationship with Kelly and the alleged video 1. And let me interject here. So Roshona Landfair, I think her brother and 2 of her cousins, there were 4 of them that were a member of a group called For the Cause. And For the Cause was actually very popular overseas. And if you guys have ever looked at the picture, so the group was Shona Edwards, who was born in 1981, Benny B.J. Edwards, Jason J. Man Edwards, and then Rashonda Shorty Edwards. If you ever see a picture of them, and I'll drop one in this video, the Shauna girl and the Rashonda girl look very much alike. And I have consistently asked this question: is it possible that it was Shona that was in the video and not Rashonda? Like, that has been my thought process. I've never seen the video before, but everybody swear that it looks like Rashonda. You know, her classmates were saying, yeah, she wore her hair like that. It really looked like her. We believe that it's her. But I thought that her and that Shauna girl looked a whole lot alike. And I just always wondered, could it have possibly been her? And if the family did go out of the country, you know, during this investigation, is it possible? You know, they say, like, I keep seeing conflicting information. Some people say that the group disbanded in 2000. Others say they broke up, you know, in a couple of years later. But we do know that they had a record that was released in 2002 called Every Time You Go Away. So is it possible that when they left the country, it was to go and perform, since they were very, very popular overseas? So that's just my question. And then let me see what the relationship to the Shauna Edwards girl. I believe she was the cousin. Not sure if she is the sister to Sparkle. Not really sure how that family relationship works, but she was in that group. It was her, Rashonda, and then the two boys. And that is just something, you know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the group and have more information on the group than that I have, but is it a possibility that when the family left the country, it was because they were going overseas as part of this group? And we know that information can get altered easily online to reflect whatever narrative needs to get out. And so it is possible that whereas the dates did say this, now they say an earlier date, like them disbanding in 2000, but they had a song released in 2002. You know, make it make sense. But let me jump back in here. So it says B, from at least approximately 2000 to approximately 2015, Kelly and McDavid made payments to and bought gifts for Rashona and Rashona's parents with the intent to persuade and induce Rashona and Rashona's parents to conceal, cover up, falsify, and make a false entry in the record. Although he had been found not guilty, 7 years prior, they're saying that he continued, to perpetrate this fraud with the family all the way into 2015, when allegedly was the last time anyone can say that she was seen at his home or whatever. And then it's what all of a sudden made him stop in 2015. Like, what happened in 2015 that suddenly they were like, okay, we're going to cut ties and not have anything else to do with you? Because it seems to me like if they had fell out or whatever, then they could have came back then and said, hey, you know what, we lied back in the 2000s and this is what really happened. Like if they were blackmailing him, like what happened in 2015 to cause these alleged payments to stop or gifts to stop. So then it goes on to say that, he was doing this up until 2015 to get them to continue to abide by previous false statements and entries in such items, including the existence of multiple videos depicting Kelly engaging in contact with Rashona. Then C, between approximately January 2014 and approximately October 2015, Kelly caused monthly payments to be made to Rashona via the Kelly businesses, many of which contained settlement in the transaction line or something similar. Kelly made these payments to ensure that Rashona continued to abide by her prior false statements regarding their relationship, and that Rashona continued to conceal and cover up the existence of multiple videos depicting Kelly engaged in contact and acts with her. Now, how stupid would you be to write settlement? Like if you're paying somebody hush money, why are you writing settlement in the memo line? Like that's stupid. That makes absolutely no sense. So D, in approximately 2014 and 2015, McDavid received payments from Kelly relating to services he provided to conceal and cover up evidence, including but not limited to video 2, 3, And 4, and to continue to conceal and cover up such evidence of his contact and acts with these individuals that he provided to protect Kelly's image, reputation, and assets in the face of actual and potential criminal and civil actions by individuals who were alleged victims of misconduct, including services that McDavid provided to falsify and create a false entry in a record, document, and tangible object. 9. It was further part of the conspiracy that Kelly used physical abuse, violence, threats of violence, blackmail, and other controlling behaviors against victims so that he could maintain control over them, prevent them from providing evidence to law enforcement, and persuade them to continue to abide by prior false statements relating to his contact and sexual acts with them and videos of such conduct. It just seems to me like he would have been paying from here on out. Wouldn't that make sense? Like, if he was in such fear, what suddenly happened in 2015 that made him say, I ain't going to be in fear no more. I'm not paying this money anymore. Or was this all part of the scheme with McDavid? And that is what Jennifer Bonjean is basically saying. We need you to get on board over here with defending my client, because if you over there on the island by yourself, then we're going to have to treat you like the enemy that you are. And so there's just seems to be some underlying stuff going on behind the scenes between McDavid's attorney and Jennifer Bonjean. So then 10, it was further part of the conspiracy that Kelly, McDavid, individual A, and others concealed and hid and caused to be concealed and hidden the existence of and acts done in furtherance of the conspiracy. Then they move into overt acts. 11, in furtherance of the conspiracy and to accomplish the objectives of the conspiracy, defendants committed one or more overt acts in the Northern District of Illinois and elsewhere, which overt acts included but were not limited to the following. A, on or about August 21st, 2001, individual A, acting as an agent for Kelly and McDavid, entered into a contract with individual B to recover and return videotapes that depicted Kelly engaged in these acts with these people in exchange for $100,000 plus no more than $40,000 in expenses. The contract required individual B to deliver the tapes to individual A by Thursday, August 23rd, 2001 in order to receive payment. B, on or about approximately April 17, 2007 and April 20th, 2007, McDavid on Kelly's behalf received from individual C and individual D videotapes that McDavid and Kelly knew depicted Kelly engaged in contact and acts with Rishona and individual D. C, in approximately March and April 2007, at the direction of McDavid on Kelly's behalf, individual C and individual D took polygraph examinations regarding the videotapes that individual C and individual D had returned, depicting Kelly engaged in conduct, blah, 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 with Rishona and individual D, including whether there were additional copies of the tape. D, in approximately September 2008, Kelly caused a Bass Production limited check signed by McDavid to be issued to Greg Landfair, payable in the amount of $30,000. E, on or about June 30th, 2009, Kelly and McDavid caused a wire payment to be made from a Bass Productions limited bank account to pay individual B to settle a lawsuit that individual B had filed for payment for recovering the returning videotapes that depicted Kelly in this behavior. Okay, F, in approximately August 2013, Kelly caused Bass Productions Limited to transfer title of a GMC Yukon Denali to Rishona. G, in approximately September 2014, Kelly caused a wire transfer in the amount of $80,000 to be paid to McDavid through his firm, Winkler and McDavid Limited. Age, in approximately October 2014, Kelly caused a RSK Enterprises LLC check to be issued to Rashona, payable in the amount of $1,150 with the notation personal RK in the memo line. In approximately October 2015, Kelly caused a wire payment to be made from RSK Enterprises LLC to minor one, which is Rashona, payable in the amount of $1,150 with the notation settlement payment, although the payment was not made pursuant to a settlement with Kelly. Okay. J, in approximately December 2015, Kelly caused a wire payment in the amount of $100,000 to be made from RSK Enterprises to agents of McDavid on McDavid's behalf, all in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 371. Now, I'm really trying to understand how was this in violation when you consider that Daryl McDavid worked for R. Kelly, so why would he be giving him money? And then I believe that the money that he was giving him, the $100,000 and $80,000, was the result of a lawsuit or something that was going on. But I guess they got a narrative and a story to tell about that. And then I'm going to pause this right now and go pull up this story about this scheme with Lisa Van Allen, so I can tell you guys who these individuals are that they're talking about. So give me a second. Okay, I thought I had some notes on who. So the four individuals, individual 1, 2, 3, and 4. I thought I had notes on who individual 1 was, but I'm thinking 2 is Yul Brown, 3 is Damon Friar, and 4 is Lisa Van Allen. I can't remember who that fourth individual is that was a part of this scheme. And then I am going to do a second video, I think, where I talk about and read an article to you guys from the Los Angeles Times that pretty much sum up what happened with Lisa Van Allen and this tape. And then also, if you guys are familiar with Tony Rivera, she is a advocate for human trafficking, and you guys know she did an interview on The Breakfast Club, and at the very end of the interview she talks about the fact that she knows Lisa Van Allen and that Lisa Van Allen used to run with her. And Tony Rivera's story is that she had came to Atlanta for Freaknik. She met this guy, got got dick whipped is basically what happened. And then he tricked her out and turned her into a prostitute, and then made her go out and recruit other women to, to be other teenagers to be a part of his sex ring. And that is how she met Lisa Van Allen. And so I think Lisa Van Allen is pretty ungrateful, because it appears to me, just following her story, that R. Kelly actually saved Lisa Van Allen from a life of prostitution and trafficking. And that the reason she left Atlanta to go be with him in Chicago was because he offered her a better life from the one that she was living, which was as a prostitute. And so that's that. Let me know what you think about that. Like, should he have left her on the streets of Atlanta tricking and, whatever for cash? But anyway, so then they move on to count 6, and it says the special May 2019 grand jury further charges paragraphs 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7E, and 8 of count 5 are incorporated here, and then 2 beginning in or around August 2001 and continuing to in or around April 2007 at Chicago in the Northern District of Illinois in the Eastern Division, and elsewhere that Mr. Kelly, Mr. McDavid, and Mr. Brown, defendants herein, did knowingly conspire with each other, individual A, individual B, and others known and unknown to the grand jurors, to receive CP as defined in Title 18 United States Code Section 2256, 8A, namely Video 2, Video 3, and Video 4, that has been mailed and shipped and transported in interstate and foreign commerce by any means. And remember, when they say mailed and shipped and transported, it doesn't mean that he mailed, shipped, and transported the content on the videos. That it could very well mean that the videos themselves, from the manufacturer to the store to him purchasing the video, were shipped and transported in interstate and foreign commerce by any means. So in violation of Title 18, blah, blah, blah. So count 7, the grand jury in or around August, further charges that in or around August 2001, in Chicago, in the Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division, and elsewhere, Kelly and McDavid, defendants herein, did knowingly receive the CP as defined, namely video 2 and video 3, that has been mailed and shipped, blah, blah, blah. We just talked about that in the other count. So they're basically just repeating the count for each of the videos. And they're saying that April 17, 2007 to on or about April 20th, 2007 at Chicago, video 4, I guess, was taken. Let's see, what were the dates in the other ones? August 2001 was video 2. And then, let's see. They don't have a date in that one. Video 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so video 2 and 3 were August 2001, and then video 4 was August 2007. Okay, and all in violation of Title 18, Sections 22, 52, A, 2, and 2. Then we go down to count 9. Beginning in approximately 1997 and continuing to approximately September 2001 in Chicago, Robert Sylvester Kelly, defendant herein, using the mail or any facility and means of interstate and foreign commerce, did knowingly persuade, induce, entice, and coerce an individual, namely Rishona, who had not attained the age of 18, to engage in activity which any person can be charged with a criminal offense, namely aggravated abuse, in violation of Title 720, Illinois' compiled statute section. And guys, I'm leaving certain words out of these charges, but we all know why we're here, so you know what words I am leaving out. Count 10, in or around the summer of 1996, at Chicago in the Northern District of Illinois, defendant herein, using the mail, facility, and means of interstate and foreign commerce, did knowingly persuade, induce, entice, and coerce, namely minor 3, who had not attained the age of 18, to engage in activity for the purpose in the charged criminal offense, namely aggravated abuse, blah, 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 in violation of Title 720, Illinois' compiled statute section 5/12 through 16D, in violation of Title 18. And remember, I told you guys in another video from last week how I had added up all these charges and how they were just basically duplicating the same infractions against him. So like they're charging him, for example, with Title 18 United States Code Section 2251A, but they're charging him with the same thing for multiple people. And I believe it was the Jesseline Maxwell case where the judge ruled that in the same charges, in the same indictment, you can't pile on and make these individual charges in terms of sentencing. So for example, if they charge him 10 times with violating Section 2251A, he doesn't get, or she didn't get 10 sentences for that charge. She would only be sentenced one time for that charge. And so it'll be interesting to see, because we saw the same thing in the Eastern District of New York. Is Judge Donnelly going to say, okay, you charged him 20 times with the same thing, but I can only sentence him one? And it doesn't mean that he's going to get less time if Judge Donnelly does that. It just simply means that you can't. So if a charge carries a life sentence, you can only give them one life sentence. How you out here giving people 20 life sentences as if they're going to die and come back again to serve the additional sentences. And so thought that was worth noting. And if you didn't see that video, for a better explanation of what I'm saying, go find the video. It was about a week ago. It was in the Jesselyn Maxwell case where she was convicted on like 4 or 5 counts, but she's only going to be sentenced on like 2 of the counts because the 3 of the counts were multiple. They called it multiplicity. And so the judge said, no, that would be double jeopardy if I sentence her on these 3 counts and they're all identical counts. I hope that makes sense. And then I'm also almost finished reading this indictment, and then we're going to jump into Jennifer Bonjean's motion to dismiss some of these charges. So count 12, basically 1997, continuing to approximately October 2001 in Chicago. Defendant herein using the mail to entice and coerce any individual, namely minor 5, criminal offense, namely aggravated abuse, same statute. Then it goes down and does the same thing for minor 6. And the dates for minor 6 is 1997, continuing to approximately December 2000. And I'm thinking, no, because I said the ages didn't match up for the Heather Williams chick. So no clue who these girls are. But once again, we were asked, where were the parents when your 14, 15, 16-year-old daughter was running around with R. Kelly 6 years after he became famous, like he was riding the wave at this point? Where were you parents that your minor child was dating this grown-ass man for 3 years? We the people want to know. So then it goes on into the forfeiture allegations, basically how they're going to try and take his money, his property, and anything that he has of value if he is found guilty. So that is the superseding indictment in this case of the Northern District of Illinois, United States versus Robert Sylvester Kelly. So now we would jump into the motion to dismiss that Jennifer Bonjean filed. And she filed this motion about a week, might have been, time moving on. She filed it 2 weeks ago, y'all. I think it was on April 30th that she filed this motion, and I was having some issues with my voice and my allergies and whatnot. So let's go ahead. It says motion to dismiss counts 1 through 4 and 6 through 13 of the motion to dismiss counts 1 through 4 and 6 through 13 of the superseding indictment as time barred. And these are the charges directly related to the alleged victims, minor 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And she didn't file anything about the McDavid parts of the indictment because she about to get up in his butt, and I am waiting on it. So it says, now comes the defendant, Robert S. Kelly, by and through his counsel, Jennifer Bonjean, and moves this court to dismiss counts 1 through 4 and 6 through 13 of the superseding indictment as time barred. Introduction. It is recently discovered enthusiasm to prosecute in its recently Okay, let's start over. In its recently discovered enthusiasm to prosecute Mr. Kelly, the government reaches back a quarter century to bring charges of abuse and receiving CP that have long been time barred. Count 1 through 4 of the indictment alleges child exploitation of Rashona Landfair, and she has minor 1, that occurred between 1998 and 1999. Pursuant to the operative version of United States Code 18, Section 3283, the government had until September 2009 in which to charge defendant with Section 2251A. Offenses arising from this conduct. Because the statute of limitations ran more than a decade ago, the court should dismiss counts 1 through 4 of this indictment. Similarly, counts 6 through 8 of the indictment allege conduct that occurred between 2001 and 2007. Because these offenses, which claim that defendant received CP, are subject to a 5-year statute of limitations, they are time barred. Even assuming the applicability of section of United States Code 18, section 3283 to count 7, rather than the general 5-year statute of limitations set forth in section 3283A, the statute of limitations on this count expired in 2009 when Rishona turned 25 years old. So let's stick a pin here and let's bring up this section of the United States Code that she is referring to. Okay, United States Code 18, section 3283 is called Offenses Against Children. And, hold on a second. So it says, Jesus Christ, hold on. It says, no statute of limitations that would otherwise preclude prosecution for an offense involving the sexual or physical abuse or kidnapping of someone under 18 shall preclude such prosecution during the life of the person or for 10 years after the offense, whichever is longer. Okay, that didn't help clarify anything. So it says, prosecution of an offense involving shall preclude such prosecution during the life, or for 10 years after the offense, whichever is longer. Now, guys, I mean, I'm kind of reading that and mean that they can prosecute as long as the person, well, there's two ways I can look at it. They can prosecute as long as the person is alive or up until the person is 18. And then once they turn 18, then it's 10 years. They have 10 years until the person turns 18. So I am going to assume that that is what Jennifer Bongine is trying to say. Let's see if the actual, and that was from a law firm. Let me see what the government website says about this law. Okay, and of course, they want me to go and read a whole document, which I am not going to do. So it sounds like it's similar to the statutes of limitations, which says that, you know, regardless of what age it happens, the person has until they turn 18 plus so many years on top of that. And then I know in Chicago, although they changed the laws in Chicago, what was it, in 2017, to give people a lifetime in order to make allegations, it wasn't retroactive. So anything before 2017, the person had up until their 18th birthday plus 20 years in order to stake a claim and accuse somebody of abusing them when they were underage. And so I am going to take it that that is what Jennifer Bongine is interpreting the law to mean. So let's go ahead and get back into this. So it says counts 9 through 13 suffer from same timeliness problems. The Mann Act violations charged in counts 9 through 13 allege conduct that occurred between 1996 and 2002. Again, pursuant to the operative version of United States Code, Title 18, United States Code, Section 3283, the statute of limitations for these counts ran upon the minor's 25th birthday, which occurred no later than 2009. Accordingly, this court must dismiss all counts of the indictment as time barred, with the exception of count 5, which was already subject of a motion to dismiss on statute of limitation grounds. And I think he already ruled on that. That was filed by Steve Greenberg, I believe, some time ago, and they denied the request. So it says allegations. On February 13, 2020, the government filed a superseding indictment charging defendant with 4 counts of exploitation conduct that allegedly occurred in 1998 or 1999. Specifically, the indictment accuses defendant of engaging in explicit conduct with minor one for the purpose of producing 4 separate videos between 1998 and 1999. Counts 1 through 4. Counts 6 through 8 of the indictment accuse defendant of conspiring to and then receiving those same videos or copies thereof in 2001 and 2007 in violation of Section 2252A after the videos were allegedly stolen from defendant by individual D. The superseding indictment further alleges that defendant... Okay, I hit the wrong button. Let me get back up here. Okay, let me go back up here. Okay, guys, hold on while I find my place again. I'm sorry. Okay, let's pick up here. And let's see. So it says the superseding indictment further alleges that defendant committed numerous Mann Act violations pursuant to 18 USC 2422B. Specifically, the government contends the following. Between 1997 and September 2001, defendant did knowingly persuade, induce, entice, and coerce minor one to engage in activity that constituted aggravated criminal abuse under Illinois law. That was count 9. Then they basically say the same thing for count 10, which applies to minor 3, count 11, which applies to minor 4. Oh, and let me read these dates to you guys. In the summer of 1996 is the minor 3, and that was count 10. Between 1999 and 2000, and I'm just not repeating the verbiage, the persuade, induce, entice, and all that other nonsense. Okay, minor 4, which was count 11. Between 1997 and 2001 was minor 5, which was count 12. And then between 1997 and 2000 was minor 6, which was count 13. So then the argument she has is that with the exception of count 5, which was already the subject of a motion to dismiss, all counts in the indictment must be dismissed as time barred. Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 12B3B allows a party to raise by pretrial motion a defect in the indictment or information, including failure to state an offense. Rule 12B1 more generally allows a party to raise by pretrial motion any defense, objection, or request that the court can determine without a trial on the merits, including an argument based on the statute of limitations. Federal Rules of Criminal Procedures 12B1 and B1-2 Advisory Committee note, pursuant to Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 7C1, an indictment or information must be a plain, concise, and definite written statement of essential facts constituting the offense charged. The indictment need not allege in detail the factual proof that will be relied on to support the charges. And then she quotes United States versus Smith, which was heard in the 7th Circuit in 2000, which stated that an indictment is legally sufficient if 1, states all elements of the crime charged, 2, adequately informs the defendant of the nature of the charges so that they may prepare a defense, and 3, alleges the defendant to plead the judgment as a bar to any further prosecutions. United States versus White, which was heard in the 7th Circuit of 2010, and then a court assumes all facts in the indictment are true and must view all the facts in the light most favorable to the government, which was United States versus Yashar in the 7th District in 1999. And child, I'm not sure why she threw that in there, but she did. So then she goes on to say, A, the limitations period for all counts alleging conduct that preceded 2003 are time barred. Because the statute of limitations for counts 1 through 4, 7, and 9 through 13 identified supra expired no later than 2009, they must be dismissed as time barred. Federal law imposes a 5-year limitations period for most non-capital offenses, and that's Title 18 United States Code, Section 3282A. However, Congress provided a longer limitations period for offenses involving sexual or physical abuse or kidnapping of younger people. Title 18 United States Code, Section 3283. At the time, defendant allegedly committed the offenses set out in counts 1 through 4, 7, and 9 through 13. Section 3283 provided as follows: no statute of limitations that would otherwise preclude prosecution for an offense involving sexual and physical abuse for persons under 18 shall preclude such prosecution before the person reaches the age of 25 years old. And that section, I guess, was added in 1994. Thus, at the time of the charged conduct, the statute of limitation for offenses, including abuse, were extended until the person turned 25 years old. And then she has a note which pretty much explains, it says, by way of Section 3283, extended the 5-year limitations period for the conduct alleged in counts 1 through 4 for the indictment until September 2009, when Rashona reached her 25th birthday. Minor 3 turned 25 in minor 4 turned 25 in 2007. Minor 5 turned 25 in, and then she doesn't have the year, and it says minor 6 turned 25 in, and it doesn't have the year. So maybe she'll state that further down in here. So it says in 2003, and maybe she doesn't have the birthday for those people. Maybe that's why she eliminated that. So in 2003, Congress amended the statute, extending the statute of limitations through the life of a minor. And that was the same code, but the change was made in 2003. Congress did not express an intent for the 2003 amendment to apply retroactively. Consistent with the well-established presumption against retroactive legislation, the 2003 amendment is inapplicable to charged conduct, as is in any subsequent amendments to Section 3283, and that's United States versus Dale from the Fifth Circuit of 2015, applying the version of Section 3283 in effect at the time of the defendant's offense rather than the amended version in effect at the time of the indictment. So, consistent with the established principle that criminal limitation statutes are to be liberally interpreted in favor of repose, this court should reject any argument in favor of retroactive application of the 2003 or the 2006 version of Section 3283. And then she cites Tracy versus United States, which was heard in 1970. As a general rule, retroactivity is not favored in the law, and that was from Velasquez Garcia versus Holder from the Seventh Circuit in 2014. And they were quoting Bowen versus Georgetown University Hospital, a case that was heard in 1988. The Supreme Court has explained that this aversion to retroactive rulemaking is deeply rooted in our jurisprudence and embodies a legal doctrine centuries older than our republic. Elementary considerations of fairness dictate that individuals should have an opportunity to know what the law is and to conform their conduct accordingly. Settled expectations should not be lightly disrupted. For that reason, the principle that the legal effect of conduct should ordinarily be assessed under the law that existed when the conduct took place has timeless and universal human appeal, And the Supreme Court was seeing Landgraf versus USI Film Productions, which was a case that was heard in 1994. So the court in Landgraf set forth a framework for determining whether a statute applies retrospectively to pre-enactment conduct. The court articulated a two-step analysis to evaluate the proposed retroactive application of a statute. And then there's a note at the bottom of the page that says Congress amended the statute again, talking about the 3283, again to its current version, which provides a limitations period for the life of the victim plus 10 years after the offense, whichever is longer. Okay, so basically what she's saying here is that the law that was in effect at the time these alleged crimes happened, that the people only had until they were 25 years to press charges under state law. And that the government is basically using a version of the law that was amended in either 2003 or 2006, but she seems to be pointing to the 2003 version of the law. So then she has the court's first task is to determine whether Congress has expressly prescribed the statute's proper reach. If Congress has done so, of course, there is no need to resort to judicial default rules. When, however, the statute contains no such express command, the court must determine whether the new statute would have retroactive effect, whether it would impair rights a party possessed when he acted, increase a party's liability for past conduct, or impose new duties with respect to transactions already completed. If the statute would operate retroactively, for traditional presumption teaches that it does not govern absent clear congressional intent favoring such a result. Thus, under Landgraf, if Congress was expressly prescribed that a statute applies retroactively or will not apply retroactively, the inquiry ends. If the statute is silent on the issue, courts proceed to the second step of the Landgraf analysis and determine whether the new statute would operate retroactively. Here, the 2003 amendment of Section 3283 contains no language expressly prescribing retroactive application of amendment. The statute also does not expressly provide that it may only apply prospectively. However, Congress considered and rejected language that expressly prescribed retroactive effect. So she's saying Congress rejected that notion. Indeed, the legislative history leaves no doubt as to congressional intent. The House version of the bill provided for the complete elimination of a statute of limitations and included an express retroactivity provision. Child Abduction Prevention Act. House Rules 1104, which was created by the 108th Congress, Section 202 in 2003. The Senate version contained no retroactivity provision. Project Act, Section 151, 108th Congress. When the House and Senate conference to resolve differences between the bills, the retroactivity provision was omitted. Senator Leahy, one of the bill's original co-sponsors and a former chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, stated on the Senate floor the omission was intentional. And he was quoted as saying, I am pleased that the conference agreed to drop language from the original House-passed bill that would have extended the limitations period retroactively. Senator Leahy, Amber legislation, Congress Record 149, paragraph 50, section 5147, 2003. The legislative history of the bill expresses Congress's intent that the amendment apply prospectively. See Martin versus Haddix from 1999, examining structure and legislative history, as part of the first land grant step. See also LaTab versus Ashcroft, First Circuit in 2004, which states our inquiry is not limited to the statutory text, but may include an examination of standard ensigns of statutory construction, such as the statute's truck and legislative history. In sum, Congress affirmatively rejected the proposed retroactive application provision, indicating its intent that the statute apply prospectively, meaning going forward. Even if this court concludes that Congress's intent is not expressed, retroactive application of 2003 amendment fails to pass the second prong of Langford's test. The United States Supreme Court held in Strogner versus California in 2003 that retroactive application of extended statutes of limitations to revive time-barred claims violate the ex post facto clause. The government is sure to argue that the 2003 amendment did not revive time-barred claims in this case, but rather extended the limitations period for prosecuting those offenses before the limitations period expired. Admittedly, some courts would agree that extending a limitations period before a prosecution is time-barred does not run afoul of the ex post facto clause. Baldwin versus City of Greensboro, which was heard in the Fourth Circuit in 2013. However, an analysis of the retroactivity of a criminal statute of limitations under the second step must recognize the principle that unlike civil statutes of limitations, criminal limitations are to be liberally interpreted in favor of repose. And then she quotes D&J 2017, United States versus Gentile, observing that if Langforth and Toucey are read in conjunction, courts must interpret the statute of limitations in a manner favoring repose for defendant. As the First Circuit has acknowledged, Toucey potentially alters the second step in the Landgraf approach in criminal cases. United States versus Miller, First Circuit 2018, evaluating 2003 amendment in adjudicating ineffective assistance of counsel claim. In other words, when Congress has sounded an uncertain trumpet, a court ought to refrain from applying an enlarged criminal statute of limitations retrospectively. As discussed supra, Congress sounded an uncertain trumpet regarding the retroactivity of the 2003 indictment when it affirmatively removed a retroactivity provision from the bill. In light of Toucey, this court should reject a retroactive application of the 2003 amendment, even if it is not equivalent of an ex post facto violation, because it runs afoul of familiar considerations of fair notice, reasonable reliance, and settled expectations. Put differently, defendant urges the court to read the second step of Landgraf as providing broader protections for criminal defendants and the ex post facto clause. Statutes of limitations applicable to criminal prosecutions are designed principally to protect individuals from having to defend themselves against charges supported by facts that are remote in time. United States versus Rivera Ventura, Second Circuit 1995. That concern is acute in the case where the government seeks to rely on the retroactive extension of criminal statute of limitations to prosecute a case based on conduct that is more than 2 decades old. Since the time of the alleged conduct, memories have faded or have been corrupted. Documents have been lost or destroyed, and witnesses have died to the detriment and prejudice of defendant. Retroactive application of the 2003 amendment would not only fly in the face of congressional intent, it would violate notions of fundamental fairness. Okay, so she said that somebody done died, a witness done died. So y'all remember the case. I would have to go back and find my notes again. Okay, hold on. Let me go find my notes where we were talking about them bad act witnesses. And remember, one of the people that they were trying to introduce as a bad act witness had a friend that had passed away, but they both were accusers. So let me see if I can find that document real clear and see what year that happened. Hold on. Okay, I'm looking at my list and I didn't have her. She was the Jane Doe number 12 who didn't, I don't think she testified during the case, but it didn't have a year. It says the deceased friend of, okay, so Jane Doe number 11. Okay, Jane Doe number 11 was 2001 and sued for the STD. That person may have did. Was that Kate? The one that wanted to keep seeing him even after she sued him? So that was 2001, but she was 21 at the time. So that's not her. And then Jane Doe number 12 was the friend who passed away. And she also sued after Jane Doe number 11 told her how easy it was to get money out of Mr. Kelly, that people were just out there suing him, telling stories, suing him, and he was settling these cases without, any evidence or trying to learn anything. And so I have no clue who these people are. So it is going to be interesting to see who these people turn out to be. Okay, so let me go back to where I was at. I swear to God, I'm almost done, because right now she's just quoting a bunch of cases supporting her notion that they can't go, that if they're using the 2003 amendment, they cannot go back retroactively and pick up these cases where the statute of limitations has expired based on the rules that were in effect at the time these cases took place. So then we're going to move on to B, which says count 6 through 8 are also time barred since the limitations period for those counts was 5 years rather than the extended period from section 3283. It says even if the 2003 amendment is retroactively applied to defendant's conduct, counts 6 through 8 would still be time barred because section 3283 does not apply to those offenses. Section 3283 extends the statute of limitations only for offenses involving the sexual or physical abuse or kidnapping of persons under the age of 18, but counts 6 through 8, which charge conspiracy to receive CP and the completed offenses, is not necessarily an offense that involves abuse of someone underage. The United States Supreme Court has acknowledged that an offense or crime that involves certain conduct means an offense that necessarily requires that conduct. Then she quotes a case from 2020 and then also another case from 2004 stating that quote, offense that involves, end quote, language, and then, quote, requires us to look to the elements and the nature of the offense rather than to the particular facts, end quote, at issue. The United States Supreme Court has recently reiterated that, quote, in all of the most unusual situations, a single use of a statutory phrase must have a fixed meaning, end quote. And then United States versus David, and that was from 2019. And then thus only if the offense necessarily entail the identified conduct can it be said to be an offense involving that conduct. And that was a case from 2012. And she's basically just picking words and sentences out of these decisions. Child, we would have to read the whole decision to understand why she's only picking out these phrases. And so then she goes on and talks about interpreting, quote, offenses that involve fraud or deceit, end quote, to mean. And then she quotes offenses with elements that necessarily entail fraudulent or deceitful conduct. So That's a bit confusing. This approach dates back to Bridges versus United States in 1953, where the court construed the Wartime Suspension of Limitation Act's extension of statutes of limitations for any offense involving fraud or attempted fraud against the United States. And that was from Title 18, Section 3287, 1950, emphasis added. The Supreme Court held that the extension was, quote, limited strictly to offense in which defrauding or attempting to defraud the United States is an essential ingredient of the offense charged. Okay, that's why she was pulling those words out. Then she goes on and says, thus the court held that charges that the defendant knowingly made and conspired to make false statements in a naturalization proceeding, and that he aided and abetted a fraudulent certificate of naturalization were subject to the general statute of limitations and not the exception, because fraud is not an essential ingredient of such offenses, even if the conduct alleged could be construed as fraudulent in a general sense of the word. And that was from United States versus Morgan Circuit, DC Circuit, 2004. And then they say, when interpreting Title 18 Code Section 3237A, a venue statute that states any offense involving the use of the mails, transportation in interstate or foreign commerce, end quote, the court held that the most natural reading of the statute is to construe any offense involving by reference to the elements of the offense at issue. Under the necessary entails approach, Section 3283 does not apply to counts 6 through 8, since conspiracy to receive CP and the completed offenses of receiving CP do not necessarily entail that there was abuse of a child. In United States versus Quintitos, 8th Circuit, 2011, the court held that Section 3283 did not apply to a charge of possession of CP. Looking at the elements of the offense, the court concluded that although the production of the porn did involve the abuse of a person, the offense of possession of the CP did not involve abuse and thus was subject to the general statute of limitations. The court wrote that a producer of CP will possess it at the time of the abuse is insufficient to change our view that the offense of possessing CP itself does not involve an act against the child, i.e., the abuse. Consistent with the preceding authority and principles of law, counts 6 through 8 of the superseding indictment that charged defendant with conspiring to and receiving CP is subject to the general 5-year statement of limitations because those offenses do not necessarily entail the abuse of a person under a certain age. As such, the statute of limitations for those offenses expired no later than 2012, making the counts time barred. Conclusion: for the foregoing reasons, this court should dismiss the entire superseding indictment with the exception of count 5, which was already the subject to a statute of limitations challenge. Well, I mean, being a non-lawyer, okay, I think she makes a pretty good argument. It seems pretty clear to me that the charges that they are putting against him were from a statute that was put into place after the alleged offenses took place, and that they do not coincide with the statute that was in place at the time that the alleged actions occurred. And so she's saying that it's pretty clear that you're not allowed to go retroactively to pull up charges, because think about it, if they did do that for everybody, the courts would be overwhelmed, okay? And so I guess what she needs to do is do a little research and find out if there have been cases where the government went back retroactively and pulled up cases that were time barred and convicted these people and had a successful conviction? Or is Mr. Kelly's case a rarity? Like, is this just something they just said, okay, well, we're going to try it and see what happens. We're going to throw it up and see if it sticks to the ceiling. So, guys, that's it for me. I mean, it sounds like a good argument to me, a good reason to have all of this thrown out. Once again, besides Tracy Sampson, we don't know who none of these people are. Tracy Sampson and Rishona Landfair, I believe, are the only two people. Rishona, we know for a fact, is number one, Jane Doe number one. We believe that Tracy Sampson, I believe, is 4. And then we have no clue who 3, 5, and 6 are. No clue whatsoever. I guess we'll find. And we might not even find that during the trials, because the Northern District of Illinois has not gone yet to the extent that the the Eastern District of New York went to, by wanting an anonymous jury, barring people from the courtroom, barring media from having a call-in line to listen to the case, setting aside, I believe one courtroom only allowed 8 non-press people. The other one had 32 press people. Just a whole bunch of mess and a whole circus. And then also, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the government's response is, which is due, what did I say, on May 24th. And then Jennifer Bongine can respond. And then also, she stated in the hearing last week that she had an amendment to the motion that she filed that she wanted to include. So she has some more stuff that she wants to add on to this. And the judge told her when she files her response to the government on the 31st, she can include whatever that additional information was that she wanted to talk about in the hearing last week. So it is going to be interesting to see, once jury selection starts, if this judge is, if these prosecutors are going to say we need an anonymous jury and all of this stuff, because we still don't know who was on that jury for the Eastern District of New York. It could have been paid actors for all we know. And just the thought that these people have been silent and not one person has came forward to do an interview. And to be honest, I don't even think mainstream media is trying to find out who these people are or trying to do an interview with any of them. I mean, like that whole Eastern District of New York case was scary, because it just shows how the government can just throw stuff up, and hope some of it stick. And just the way that case was handled, that was just such a violation of his right to due process, a right, to a public trial. Just so many infractions in that case that it was just unbelievable. But anyway, I am going to go ahead and end this here. I had promised people that I would go over the indictment from the Northern District of Illinois, and that even though other people had covered this motion by Jennifer Bongine, I said that I would still go ahead and do the video. So here it is, guys. Go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.